All right, so today we're going to give out a list of some ideas for reserve funds, so stay tuned. Hello, fellow wealth builders, and welcome back to the TruFinancials channel. Of course, as always, my name is Dennis, and on this channel, we do like to talk a lot about personal finance, investing, and retirement to help build your wealth. So if you're new here, definitely consider subscribing today, and do not forget to hit that little bell icon to get notifications when new videos do come up. All right, so I had this idea while making my last budget video about, what are some other types of reserve funds that other people can have. So I figured let's go ahead and make a video today and have a whole list of different types of reserve funds that you can make for your budgets or just to have on the side if you're not personally making a budget but want to have something set aside for the future. All right, so before we get into the list of reserve fund ideas, just to let those that are not too familiar, I'm personally banking with Capital One 360 Banking. So I can have multiple savings accounts without having to worry about a bunch of fees and anything else tacked on top of that too. So if your bank charges a lot of fees, you might not be able to do it this way, but just a heads up, that is an option for you. I do have a link in the description box down below if you would like to go ahead and sign up with Capital One. That is a referral link, so you do get a little bonus as well as I do if you like to do it that way. So reserve funds are very important for any type of budget because they are going to help you strategize when it comes to saving and planning for the future. Now, I personally like to have all of my reserve funds split up into different accounts. Some people like to have it all in one and then on a spreadsheet split up what that money is actually going to be used for. So it really depends on the person and what they prefer. So the very first reserved fund that I would highly recommend, and this is going to be the most crucial one, is of course your reserve fund. This is the money that you want to have set aside for an emergency that you do not see coming. Now, I have talked about in previous videos, which I'll link right up here for you, depending on where you are in your steps to being able to try to get out of debt or already out of debt, how much to actually have in an emergency fund. So definitely check that out if you'd like. But an emergency fund is going to be the number one priority when it comes to having money set aside. All right, so next up is going to be taxes. So this can be a couple different things, but if you, let's say, don't get charged taxes on your income, whether it's because you're a contractor or you're working for things like Uber or Lyft, you want to have money set aside in a fund so that way you can have that amount being able to be paid back to the government when tax time does come around. So make sure that if you have taxes that you're going to have to be owing, have that money set aside for the future. And if you have a home that you don't have a mortgage to, you usually have to pay your taxes once a year. So that's another way you can have money set aside. We do that personally with our taxes for our home. We have money put aside every single week, so that way it's a lot less on our end when it comes to having to pay that large amount. All right, so next up is going to be family vacations. This is a big one. So if you like to go on vacations with your family, set money aside for those vacations. That way you're not putting everything on debt and then months and months after the actual vacation, you're still sitting there having to pay off that vacation. It wouldn't be fun to be able to do that, but if you go to this vacation or go on those vacations when it's all paid off, it's going to be a lot more fun for you. So make sure you have that fund set aside if you're one that likes to go on those type of vacations. All right, so next up is going to be the home remodeling. So if you're ever planning on upgrading the kitchen, the bathroom, bedroom, living room, anything in the house, but it's going to cost you a little bit of money, have that money set aside in a reserve fund so that way you can build up to that amount. So when it comes time to do the remodel, and let's say it goes a little over budget, you have that money in the account so that way you can plan for it versus, getting like a construction loan or getting credit cards for Home Depot and then just having to pay all that money off in the long term. Not something you really want to when you're sitting there, looking at your kitchen and figuring, man, I still got to pay all that money off. Have that money set aside for the future so that way it's a lot easier when that construction comes around and then you can really truly enjoy those upgrades in your home. So to kind of go along with the home remodeling, maybe you're planning on purchasing a new home in the near future. That is going to be a huge commitment. So make sure that you have something set aside so that way you can pay that down payment. Put a little bit of money every single month aside, and then that way that amount is going to build up for you to be able to purchase that home and not have to worry about how you're going to make that down payment work. You're going to be able to pay for it regardless. All right, so next up is going to be a car fund / car repair fund. Just depending if you're wanting to upgrade a car or that you're going to have some car issues in the near future, you can have money set aside for those. We personally have one of those, so that way when something comes up like it most recently did, we have a little bit of money stashed away, so that way we can pay for those type of repairs because we know they're kind of coming. We just don't know exactly when. Next up is going to be the holidays. We all know when the holidays come around, whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or anything else in between, even the new year. There's a lot that goes on during that time of the year. So when it comes up, put that money aside every single month, so that way it makes it a lot easier. That is a great reserve fund to have because, again, it's always going to be the same time of the year, and you can kind of budget based off of how many more months you have until that time of the year, so you can put it all aside and have it all ready for you to go. And it makes the holidays that much easier because it's one less thing you have to stress about, because there's, again, so much stuff going on. Why not be prepared? Next up is going to be anniversaries. So if you're married or you're with someone for a long time and you guys like to do big extravagant things during your anniversaries, that's another good thing to have set aside and put money towards too. So go ahead and set that money aside, kind of have an idea of what you want to do, and then that way that money is going to be set there and only going to be used for that anniversary. And that way, again, you can celebrate your anniversary stress-free, knowing that you had money aside well in advance to be able to do those things. So a gift fund is another great idea. So if you want to put money set aside for, let's say birthdays or, weddings or events, that way you can have it all set aside properly in one place to be able to pull money out for, birthdays and whatnot as well too. So another great one when it comes to reserve funds is maybe you have a slow time at work. So maybe during the summer times you're not as busy, or maybe during the winter times you're not going to be as busy. So those times come, but during the other times of the year, you're doing very well. Maybe having money set aside for those slower months, so that way you're not as stressed, you're not as worried when it comes to the slow period of time. That is another option for you as well. So next up is going to be schools. So if you're going to college and you're going to have tuition, you're going to have books that you have to pay for, maybe have that money set aside so that way you can make it easier on yourself when it comes to having to look for books and not having to stress out versus, actually studying and getting ready for classes. So another big one is going to be a wedding. So if you're obviously, saving up for a wedding, having that reserve fund set aside makes it a lot easier when it comes to knowing how much you have in your account, and that way you know where all your money is going when it comes to the wedding. So if you have multiple savings accounts, you don't want to accidentally mix with anything else. And especially with a wedding, there's a lot that goes on with it. There's a lot of logistics. So having all your money in one place makes it so much easier for you to be able to plan for. And that's something we did when it came to our wedding, and it was a lot easier when it came time to pay all the bills. Another idea is going to be for maybe, let's say, phone or tech upgrades. So if you want to get the new phone every single year, have that money set aside because it's coming. Same thing with tech. If you need to upgrade a laptop sometime in the near future, maybe start setting money aside in that reserve fund, so that way it's easier for you to be able to upgrade to that laptop or the camera or anything else that you need as well too. All right, and then the last one is going to be buying something big for yourself. So I know a lot of times people feel very guilty or don't want to buy something big for themselves because they feel like, it's going to be out of budget. But if you plan properly for it, if you have a reserve fund for it, put that money aside every single month, and then that way when it comes time to make the purchase, you had that money properly aside and it didn't affect the rest of your budget. So definitely consider that as well when it comes to having a reserve fund. Is there something big that you want to get for yourself? Maybe it costs $800, but you don't want to take it out in 1 month. Maybe you do $100 every single month, and then that way it makes it a lot easier and more justified when it comes to wanting to make that purchase, because in that time period, maybe you decide not to get it, or maybe you decide, this was the right purchase and $800 didn't come out of one budget, and it makes it a lot easier for you. So all those ideas are there to be able to help you manage your money a little bit better. Hopefully you do have additional reserve funds, so that way it makes it easier for you to budget and plan for the future. So all those ideas when it comes to reserve funds are to make your life that much easier and that less stress. So all those reserve fund ideas that I gave out were really to be able to make it easier for you when it comes to your budgeting, and also a lot less stress on you. Because when you have money set aside and then things do come up, it makes it so much easier to be able to just take that money out of the proper account and put it towards what needs to go through, because then that way you're not stressing out. It doesn't truly affect your budget in the long term, and it really makes the life that much easier for you too. So definitely consider having additional reserve funds if you do not already. Like I mentioned before too, I do have the Capital One 360 link down below in the description, so that way if you wanted to set up with an online bank, it kind of makes it a little easier. And they just recently too also increased the interest rate to 1%. So that's really awesome. That's actually 25% or 0.25% more when it comes to interest. So that means more money in your account when it comes every single month. And then the other awesome thing too is it makes it easier when you have your money kind of set aside a little bit away from you and not always easily visible, because then it just kind of goes in rotation and it just happens and you don't have to stress out too much about it. All right, and as I mentioned too, down in the description below, I will have that Capital One 360 referral link if you'd like to click on that. They just also increased their interest rate to 1%, which is awesome, and that means more money for you at the end of every single month. So after watching this video, leave a comment in the comment section down below, any additional reserve funds ideas that you might have that we can add to the list. All right, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Share this out with anybody else that might need some ideas when it comes to having reserved funds. And thank you, fellow wealth builders, so much for watching, and you have a great day. All right, and then if you made it to the end of this video, I have 2 additional videos here for you. This top one right here is going to be my most recent release, and then this one down here is going to be one that YouTube recommends for you if you'd like to continue watching.